Kennedy Brooks' career can teach us a lot about running back prospecting.
Bro said he paused his
like
game to be.
And it's kind of sad, but because Kennedy Brooks has such a productive, long. I mean, there's lots of other words you can use to describe Kennedy Brooks, but he's a very productive player that should go high in the draft and should be a good fantasy asset. But because of a couple things, he's not. And I mean, let's just get into it. So, Kennedy Brooks is a very dominant back that really can't catch the football, but I mean, Eric Gray is a great receiving option. So, basically, the Oklahoma coaching staff did a very good job of complementing Kennedy Brooks, who is a very dominant runner, with such a great change of pace back in Eric Gray. And Kennedy Brooks comes in as a 2018 freshman and outproduces Trey Sermon significantly. Trey Sermon, yes, that third-round pick, Trey Sermon. And in 2019, he monopolizes the backfield, causing Ramondre Stevenson to be relegated to the third back and outproducing Trey Sermon once again. In 2020, Kennedy Brooks opts out, and Sermon goes to OSU. So essentially, Kennedy Brooks forces Trey Sermon to transfer. He's very, very, very good. Ramondre Stevenson goes on to have a decent stat line at Oklahoma, but it was nothing like Kennedy Brooks. Then he comes back this year, Kennedy Brooks, and once again puts up 1,000+ yards and a pretty dominant performance. And this year, he was PFF's 21st graded back out of 490 in the country. So he has back-to-back-to-back 1,000-yard years, causing a third-round pick to transfer, proving that he was more productive than impressive rookie Ramondre Stevenson, and breaks a lot of tackles and ends up PFF's 21st graded running back in the country. So why is he not getting any draft capital and any buzz? Well, he was smaller than expected and also slow. And that is all you need for a running back to be absolutely irrelevant in the NFL. I mean, Kennedy Brooks, you can't ask for much more from a production standpoint. I mean, he has back-to-back-to-back years of 1,000 yards, lots of touchdowns. He doesn't catch the ball much, but I mean, you don't expect that out of a guy with such a great receiving threat next to him, and Eric Gray. And I mean, it's just a tough scene. Kennedy Brooks, he had draft buzz before he opted out. He comes back, puts up another 1,000-yard season. Actually, very efficiently as well. And then he's just dust because he runs a 4.59 at 209, and that's all that matters. If we can learn one thing from Kennedy Brooks is that small, slow backs can't do anything in the NFL, especially if they can't catch the ball. If you're small and slow, you can't do it. You can be one or the other, potentially. I mean, you want big, fast running backs, but small, slow running backs, like, just think about it intuitively. You're playing in the NFL, and your task as a running back is to break tackles and break away big runs. How are you going to do that when you're small and slow? It's impossible. Now, Kennedy Brooks is going to turn 24 soon. He's small and slow, and he's absolutely irrelevant, despite having a very prolific college career. Running back prospecting doesn't have to be that hard. I mean, there's just a couple things that you need to look for, and Kennedy Brooks has none of them. So take Kennedy Brooks as an example. Just because you're very productive in college doesn't mean you're going to be good pro or get any draft capital, because Kennedy Brooks has no draft type right now whatsoever. And it's kind of unfortunate for a once upon a time potential, like, oh, look at this guy. I mean, he could be a dynasty back. But, I mean, nowadays Brooks is just dust. So, I mean, use the case of Kennedy Brooks for future reference when you're prospecting running backs, because he's dead in the water now after one lackluster combine performance, weighing in light and running slow.